You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
For this segment, we're going to talk about how Syracuse can replace Jackson Meeks. And while it's going to be tough to replace 1,000 yards receiving and a second-team All-ACC wide receiver, I do think there is a wide receiver on the roster who is primed to take a big step in 2025. And that is Darrell Gill. Darrell Gill is set to be a true junior. He is 6'3", 175 pounds, and he was mostly a depth wide receiver for the Orange this past season. But that's because they had a lot of weapons. This was a very, very talented Syracuse football offense. Probably the most talented Syracuse offense in over 2 decades. I think it's more talented than the 2018 team. Okay? Darrell Gill was a depth piece, and I think he's ready for the next step, all right? In 2023, as a true freshman, Darrell Gill played in 13 games. He had 7 catches for 60 yards and a touchdown. He's a true freshman, solely a depth guy, special teams, not getting on the field a lot. Okay. He's a true freshman. We understand. And it's football. It's really, really difficult as a true freshman to make an impact in football. That's why when they do, you get very, very excited. In 2024, though, as a true sophomore, Darrell Gill took a huge leap. He played in 12 games, and in those 12 games, he had 31 catches for 570 yards and 2 touchdowns. So after all this, I came up with 3 reasons why I believe that Darrell Gill is ready for the next step. Number 1, Darrell Gill took a big jump from 2023 to 2024. Every stat went up aside from games played. It went from 13 games to 12 games. He missed a game in there, okay? But he went from 7 catches to 31 catches. He went from 60 yards to 570 yards. He went from 1 touchdown to 2 touchdowns. So he got significantly better in just 1 season. Number 2, Darrell Gill is entering his 3rd year of college. So you can maybe expect a 3rd year leap. That 3rd year is really big in college and also in the NFL. It's often that line of demarcation, the 3rd year, right? Because your first year is a rookie year. Okay, fine. Your 2nd year, all right, let's see you develop a little bit. Okay, 3rd year, now it's time to really hit the ground running. And Darrell Gill right now is just going up and up and up and up and up. And now he's entering year 3. And the final reason, Darrell Gill did really well in 2024. I believe he had 2 100-yard games in the final 3 games of the year. He did really well, and he wasn't listed very high on Syracuse's depth chart. He wasn't, because there were a lot of weapons. So the fact that he was able to still get on the field at times and produce when he was on the field is a positive sign that he is ready to take the next step. Let's give a way too early prediction on Darrell Gill. I'm going to be ultra conservative, okay, and say that Darrell Gill next year will at least surpass 700 yards. I think it's too early to project a little bit more than that because it's January 5th at the time of this recording. The Orange aren't playing another game until late August. So there's an entire offseason to go. You still got spring ball, the spring transfer portal window, and of course you got fall camp. So there's so much time for roster changes, the depth chart to move around. Who knows, right? So right now, I'm going to be conservative and say that Darrell Gill will surpass at least 700 yards this upcoming season. But I do think he can certainly go a lot higher than that. I do. I just want to put that on the record. But I think 700 is a nice, realistic expectation for Darrell Gill to not only hit that mark, but to actually exceed that mark. I think if you project him like 1,000 yards next year, then you're just left to be disappointed when he goes for 750. But if you project him for 700 and he goes for, let's say, 800, you're feeling pretty good. But hey, I reserve the right to change my mind because it's January 5th on these predictions. I think the key takeaway, though, for this entire segment is this. Darrell Gill, it's not going to be easy to replace Jackson Meeks. And this is not meant to be disrespect against Jackson Meeks. But I think that Darrell Gill can do a very fine job of it next season. Leave a comment in the comment section below your thoughts. Is there another receiver that you think could break out for the Orange next year and help fill the void of Jackson Meeks? Really, in this segment, I only talked about Darrell Gill, but there are plenty of other players on the roster who could take the next step in their development. There's a 4-star wide receiver, right? Emmanuel Ross. Umari Hatcher's still here. Zeed Haynes, Justice Ross Simmons, Hornsby, another guy. There's a lot of receivers here, but I think Darrell Gill is the one who is primed for a big 2025.